And we are officially live. Another episode of Shut Up and Invest. J Money, what is going on, my brother?
Hey Kevin, how you doing, man? Looking good today. You got some business meetings today to close.
Today's money meetings. So I had
Money
to throw on
meetings.
the suit. I haven't thrown on a suit in well over a year. Well
Wow.
over a year. I've been in pandemic t-shirts and hats pretty much. So today was money day, so I had to get all nice. And we got a guest coming on in a few minutes. He's logging on that is speaking cash flow money too. So we had to look good for it today.
Definitely. Yep, we're gonna be talking about a huge cash flow success story. With actually somebody that works in my organization, so one of my boots on the ground. So we'll go through this deal. This is a deal that me and you and Jared all had our hands in because Kevin actually financed the deal for us. So this would be a good example, a good topic today to talk about, some great cash, a different type of investment too.
Yeah. Cash flow right now is king. If you're picking it correctly, there is some people suffering in the cash flow real estate game because they were hit with tenants that were affected with the shutdowns in the pandemic. So that
Mhm.
right there is definitely a something that's hard to predict, in the future going forward when we're renting properties. Um, you know, nobody would have ever thought. It reminds me of the conversation of like 2008, where it's like nobody would have ever thought that the banks would have been, in such a major issue. Now the conversation as well, nobody would have ever thought that the government would shut down businesses and then people wouldn't be able to pay their rent, and then people are going in forbearance with their mortgage payments. Nobody would have ever thought. But I think every time these things happen is, yeah, you can't predict what's going to happen next, but it starts to look at your tenant screening, for example, in the future a little bit different. I start now to really, I'm renting a couple places as we speak, and it starts to become, well, what do they do for a living? Like,
Mhm.
how vital is it? Is it essential? Right now, essential jobs is a topic of conversation, which
Yeah.
before it never was.
Yeah, no, that's true. Also, we're getting a lot of leads with investors who have tenants in place where those tenants might be a little bit behind or they might not be paying at all, where these investors are willing to give this property up, for a good price. And it becomes on, can you weather the storm, right? So can you buy that property and either wait until the moratoriums are over? Can you work it with the tenants? You know, can you weather the storm and ride the wave? Because look, there are some good deals out there. There are investors right now who might own one or two properties, and they can't weather the storm of tenants not paying, but you might be able to buy that property for 50, 60 cents on the dollar. And if you can hold on, you're gonna have a good deal because remember, prices aren't going down. The market's not dropping right now, right? But there's a portion of the market that are tenant-owned properties where these investors are feeling pain. So that's definitely
Yeah,
a
what I'm really waiting for is what's gonna happen. It's like musical chairs right now. What's gonna happen when the banks stop giving forbearance and stop deferring their mortgage payments, and now investors in certain markets have to start making payments again with their tenants still not paying them the rent. And the court system for evictions has not caught up fast
Mhm.
enough. So now, how many payments can that tenant make? I mean, that landlord make without the tenant paying him before he gets desperate or she gets desperate and now puts the property up for sale, and potentially, depending on how much inventory of a similar situation basically explodes out into the market, is going to dictate where the prices go. That's really what I'm paying attention to right now.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm paying close attention because we both know banks don't want these houses, right? Like we know banks don't want houses. They don't want to take houses back. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see what kind of programs does the government put into place because we're in an area now where the government keeps putting things in place whenever they want to, right? Um, And what is the bank's protocol going to be when they have all these homeowners who had to write out this wave of these moratoriums and non-paying tenants? So interesting times for sure. Got not
Yeah,
got to be
we
ready.
got Jared in the house. Jared, what's up, my brother?
What's going on, Kevin? What's up, Jory?
What's going
Y'all
on,
hear
Jared?
me?
Everything good. We hear
We
you
can hear
perfect,
you.
bro.
All right.
You set up, no technical difficulties. You ready to rock and roll?
Ready to go. Ready to go.
All right, we got Joseph waiting for you. He's talking about that cash flows more than I make a month right now. Please show me how. We got Molan shouting out, what's up, guys? We appreciate you coming on the show, Jared. We appreciate you on the show, sharing this. Um, People wanna know the type of investments that right now are paying good cash flow. Let's just tell the story behind it. Let's just go from start to finish and then give people an update on how it's currently going and the pros and cons and what's next on the horizon.
Yeah, let's kind of start with the whole. So funny story. Jared actually works with me in PA, and Jared, kind of tell the story how we kind of connected again last year.
Yeah, it started off just me on my journey and diving into real estate and doing a lot of research, being on different platforms, meeting a lot of different people, and on this one platform, I kept seeing Jory pop up, in my market. And then as I seen him pop up, he also looked familiar to me. I met Jory, I believe I was a senior in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Jory was in college. My high school took a trip to college. We went to spend a day at the college so we can see what college is like. And I got paired up with Jory.
I
So,
was Jared's host.
yes, exactly. And I was waiting for one day. One day. So like I tell everyone, first impression is everything. Because I could have been a true jerk to Jory, not knowing that I was going to reach out to Jory, 15 years later,
Yeah, yeah.
to get some information with real estate and just try to further my education, you know. So it just happened to me being me. I am not that person. I'm not a true jerk. So I started seeing him on these platforms and I reached out to him, and brought up them days 15 years ago. And at first, Jory was like, "No, I think you got the wrong person." And I'm like, "No." So I actually called one of my classmates who was there one day. And I was like, "Do you remember when we went to that college trip?" Long story short, he was like, "Yeah, that is him." So then I reached back out to Jory and I actually explained, the time when we met and it finally came back to him. So from there on, I knew he's been doing this for a while. So it's like I said, whatever I can do to help him out in exchange for knowledge, I'm here to help. I didn't want no pay. I didn't want anything. So I just wanted to learn, and I continue to learn every day from both of y'all. And I definitely appreciate the platform that y'all do because I'm tuning in. Even though me and Jory work together now, I'm still tuning in and learning every day from
Awesome,
the stuff that you guys put out and the shows that y'all put out.
Much appreciated. Much
yeah, much
appreciated.
appreciated, man. Jared, definitely much appreciated, man. That was a crazy story. He hit me back up, and this was like I was the freshman, he was a senior, and he had to come stay with me for a day. I had to show him around the campus. So for the circle back around was just pretty amazing.
Those are the funny stories of how I tell people all the time. Your networking is going to bring you deals, is going to put money in your pocket. The problem is, are you going to be around for when those opportunities come? Because we live and here is what I feel is going to be the biggest issue with the new school getting into this business. The new school is growing up in a world of instant gratification because we have, computers in the palm of our hand. We don't wait for nothing. we come from the school of going to the library and then having to look through things to be able to get information.
Encyclopedias.
Exactly. And we have been, riding this train of information and connections, and the simple fact that look at where we are right now. Each one of us are in a different place, and yet we're having a conversation as if we were at Starbucks together, looking at each other's faces, sharing information, and doing deals together. Literally, not physically together, but virtually together. And that is the new world. So the youth and the young bucks getting into the game now, this is normal to them. This is how they do things. They don't know anything else, which is great, right? That's the positive side of being able to do deals and virtual real estate investing and all that stuff. But the flip side and the moral of the story that Jared just shared, from what I got, is not everything in this game is instant gratification. You're not going to meet somebody and tomorrow do a deal with them. You're not going to meet somebody and then tomorrow they're going to open their doors for you. But you need to meet everybody right now and have a long-term view as, let me make sure I'm respectful. Let me make sure I'm courteous. Let me make sure I'm helpful. Let me make sure I keep this person in my network, in my database, and reach out to them periodically to build a relationship, because maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not 2022, but maybe 2028, that person now becomes somebody that is vital in a deal that you're trying to do. And that long-term, non-instant gratification, that is the key, in my opinion, to so many of my deals. I do so many deals now with people that have been in my world for years, and I'm careful on how I treat them, how I speak with them. Even if they can't do nothing now, I just don't brush up. All right, come back whenever you come back when you got some money, come back when you got some credit, come back when you got a deal, whatever the case may be, whatever the scenario or situation is. I try to always give and pay attention and be present and keep them in some type of connection. And this podcast has really helped that, because now I invite people to just listen to the podcast and they can hear these type of stories, and it keeps us connected, because you never know when you're making cash flow off of a relationship you met 15 years ago.
Yeah, you gotta learn how to nurture. You gotta nurture relationships, right? Like, microwaves. It's not, real estate is not a microwave get quick, get rich quick industry, right? People see it now. I know we've been going through a bubble or whatever, a top market for a while, but like it took us years. Me and Kevin been doing it since 04, 05, 06, right? And like it's taken years and years and years to build this business. And one thing I see a lot is people come in, the deal away, right? Don't get a deal in a month or 2 months. They want to, they want to go to something else. Like I'll do real estate now, or I'll do forex now, or I'll do crypto now, right? And it's like you gotta learn how to nurture something, because this stuff doesn't happen overnight, right? So that's such a key statement, as you said, because me and Jerry hadn't talked since that day. Like we met that one day, and we didn't keep in touch. We hadn't talked since that day, but that one encounter has helped us out both tremendously.
So Jared, fast forward to now, you connect with Jory, you start being boots on the ground on his team, which there's another podcast show we did about that. And that's in the virtual real estate investing course. Make sure you guys check that out on our website. Then this deal presents itself. So tell me how this deal even became a topic of conversation for you to personally take it down.
That once again comes back to Jory, the relationships he's built in the past. It was someone he grew up with, had the building, and he was tied up at the time with other projects, and that building was just sitting. So, once again, my relationship with Jory brought that deal to me. And on top of that, it was in my backyard. It was in where the town I grew up in. I know it with my eyes closed. I know everyone down there. Most importantly, when you know the code officer, because they control a lot. They control a lot. So And once again, that's just me being me and being who I am. I had good relationships with everyone around my area. So once he brought it to me, it was a no-brainer. It definitely was a no-brainer. It was a good deal.
Yeah, and that's another point. We could add another person because the deal I got the deal from I went to high school with. I hadn't talked to him in probably 20 years. I hadn't talked to him probably 20 years, and we kind of talked a few weeks before that through the podcast, social media. He brought me a deal, and then I'm talking, and I knew Jared was from this town, so of course, hey Jared, how's this deal? Go look at it, And like Jared said, it's so good to no matter what town you're at, make sure you know the people in your town, right? Know the code officers, know the investors, know the buyers, right? Know know your area because you want to look so many other places, but sometimes in your own backyard there are so many good deals that you can benefit from.
Yeah, 100%. Now, if correct me if I'm wrong, if my memory serves me correctly, this had some burn damage, right? This was a property that had some
Not this
fire
one.
damage. No,
No, that wasn't. That's a different one. That's a different one. This was the 3-unit property. This one needed work, but it didn't have a fire damage to it.
okay. So this property needed work, and you saw this. And Jared, at what point when you saw this deal did you say, "Man, I really want this one"? What was like, aside from the location and you knowing it, but actually once you saw the numbers, once you saw the rehab on it, what exactly was the eye-catching, like, aha moment where you said, "This one's for me"?
Well, number one, I believe the prior owner, he was only renting it as a 2-unit. So there was a whole first floor that at one point was a storefront years before my time. And then there was a whole 4th floor that was just never used. So I knew that you can create more cash flow, being that if you finish the 1st floor and if you finish the 4th floor. And it's actually a 3-unit now, but it's also set up to be a 4-unit. So I also separated all the meters. There's 4 meters on the house. So that's just for the future, down the road. Once we move forward from that, the next person can come in. They got options. They can leave it how it is, or they can go to a 4-unit. Now I combined the top floor with the 3rd unit, so it just made that bigger.
All right, so now you basically have the 1st unit rented out, correct?
Correct.
You have the 2nd floor unit rented out as the 2nd unit, and then you did the 3rd and 4th floor as the 3rd unit to make it bigger.
Correct. And also, you think if I were to rent that out, I'm sure people's wondering, well, how am I getting that cash flow? In the area, not everybody has the opportunity to afford a full rental, meaning a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom. There's that market, just like y'all talk a lot. There's that market for houses that's worth $40,000 or $50,000 because people have trouble getting a loan from the bank for them type of houses because of the price. So at the same time, I felt, and it's already out there. I break them down into rooms. Mm-hmm. So once you can break it down into rooms, you can break the price down. I charge by the room. And I know a lot of people, the first thing when I tell people, man, that gotta be a headache. Well, I have regular rentals. They're a headache too. So it all comes down to who you put in there, the tenant, your screening process. Because anything can be a headache. You can have a rental in the suburbs. That can be a headache as well. So screening is very important. I mean, I know I jumped the gun on.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, we need to get to that point anyway because it's a 3-unit building that could be 4 units. But when me and Jared were looking at the possibilities for cash flow, right? And Jared told me because I wasn't anything familiar with room houses, right? But Jared already had a house that he was using as a rooming house before, and he was telling me the numbers on. I was like, well, let's look at this. This fits perfect. So when he showed me the numbers of what we can make as a rooming house, I was like, oh yeah, this is where I have to go. And again, he knew the code officers in the city who said, yes, you can do it this way. Here's how you do it. So it's all legal. Legally do this in that town. And because of that, it was able to be set up to a rooming house where how many rooms is the house right now?
There's 9 rooms from the second floor to the top floor, and then on the first floor is a 1-bedroom efficiency.
Now, break down this for Miami boys, Florida boys like me that aren't familiar with this concept. What is a roomie house?
It's pretty much I don't do no more than 3 rooms per bathroom. So a rooming house, the tenants are sharing the bathroom and the kitchen and a common area. We're like a dining room where they can sit down and eat.
College style.
College style, exactly.
Got it. Now, are these college kids or these are regular, normal working folk that are cool with that setup and in that area it's common?
No college kids. Now, there's all age groups, from people in their early 20s to veterans,
Got it.
So
now the pros and cons behind that, I'm just guessing, is pros, you're getting more cash flow out of every room. Cons would be if you have one person, like you said, screening's important. But let's say you have a veteran that's got some post-traumatic stress disorder and he's difficult to live around, then the other people are affected and want to either leave or bring that problem to you, correct?
Correct. I mean, the first thing screening is respect. Respect your neighbors, respect. This same way if you would have a house, you ain't going to blast the music in your house knowing your neighbor's right next door and it could be bothering them. So the first thing I tell the people is respect. Because number one, I'm giving them an opportunity. Without rooming houses, and rooming houses are big. They're throughout Harrisburg. Not only in just Pennsylvania, there's a company down in Atlanta, a really big company that runs rooming houses and they manage them. So these people, most of them, some of them hit rock bottom and they're on their way back up.
Right.
So they also need a chance. And, as they come in, I let them know that this ain't a party house. I make sure they got a job. You go to my houses during the day, it's quiet because there's no one there. Everyone's working now, depending on what shift they're on. Now, when they come back, they're resting up, getting ready for the next day. So that's why I tell people respect each other.
Mm-hmm.
If someone got to get rest for work, then I have quiet hours. There's a time where it's completely quiet. Even just talking on your phone, that could disturb the guy in the room right next to you if you're arguing with someone. Now, the cons can be, I know of people who do rooming houses with couples. I prefer not to do that because you can put a person who was married for 40 years that was fine in a house, put them in a rooming house. We're human. That just won't work. People need our space. It might be a disagreement and, in the house, you can go in that room or they can go in that room. But couples, it can be a headache. Now, I never done it, but I get word on the street of people who do house couples and it can go good in the beginning, but we're human. Like I said, things happen where people need their space. Perfect example, I was just told about a couple the other day and they broken up. So the woman moved out, but when the landlord went in the room, they had the whole room divided like 2 apartments. He was on that side, she was on that side. And, that's just not the way to go. So
right.
I normally just do people who single because, like I said, most people are trying to get back on their feet. People that's coming out of being incarcerated, they still need a chance too to grow and get back on their feet.
Amen.
Yeah, I was gonna say
More than
there's a
Go
huge
ahead.
need too. I mean, Jared would tell you, we have churches coming to them. You have, the missions coming to them. There's a huge need in a lot of cities in America right now. We already know affordable housing is the biggest problem we have in this country, right? Affordable housing. So, we kind of dabble mostly in affordable housing in the stuff that we have, either through our notes that we're selling or our rental properties. But there's a level below that where people don't have any housing at all, So there's a huge need where these rooming houses are the only thing available for these people to come to. So, they have like they have jobs, they have working with. They just need a shot from someone, and Jared filled a great need with that.
Yeah, no, I can imagine making a big impact in the community. Molin's asking, how's the lease look? Are you doing them week to week, month to month? Is there something special about the leases compared to regular residential leases?
My leases are set up year to year, and for that purpose, not saying that they have to stay there for a year. When they feel that they're good and go on their own, or they got a place to go, they're able to go. But my leases are set up by year, mainly because how the system's set up for the banking. Is they don't like to see short-term leases. They want to see long-term leases. So that's in the beginning I had it month to month, but then I decided to make them a year.
Yeah, when you say the bank, you're saying because we could go into the details of the deal, but you bought this deal, you have to refinance the deal after it's fixed up. So when you're refinancing that deal, that bank wants to see if a long-term tenant in there, correct?
Correct. Yes. And that's the first thing the bank, when they said, well, we don't understand this cash flow. So I had to break it the whole way down for them, and I'm still doing it. They're still asking me more questions. I send them all of my leases because they was like, well, can we see your lease? I said, it's going to be more than one.
Yeah, and
So
Kevin, kind of get into that as far as an appraisal side, Kevin. When you see something like that, right, as an appraisal, that property brings in more cash flow than the average unit that looks like. Okay, so how is that getting appraised?
Well, when you're appraising a multifamily 4 units or less, they're still going off comparable sales based off square footage and the actual room count and bed and bath. When you go past the 4 units, now they're really looking at the cash flow. So when you're at 5 units or more, they're looking at the cash flow, but they are comparing it to zoning and making sure that everything's legal. So if you have, let's say, an 8 unit, but you chopped it up into 12 units, but you didn't do it legal, when they do an appraisal, they're not going to be able to give you credit for the 4 extra units that you chopped up and put in there. But if you did everything legal, like Jared did, and you went through the city and you turned it into a 12 unit, then they will measure the cash flow and the money that basically the property is producing to dictate what the value of that property looks like. So those are the two differences from an appraisal standpoint. For short-term rentals, if you don't have um, multiple years in that business, that if you do, they'll start to consider, not all the banks, but they might consider you essentially a hotel type business, so a bed and breakfast. But you got to show them financials. You got to show them that you have the history of doing this, the experience, and that you essentially run this just like any other business of hotels or bed and breakfast. That's how they treat you. But if you just recently acquired a property and you're trying to refinance out, and you got short-term rentals, yeah, they're going to be hesitant towards that just because they don't know, the business model hasn't been proven there yet, right? This is what you're just starting to do, and they just want to see some history behind it before they decide to invest their money in it. That's usually their mindset behind it.
Got it. Let's kind of break down. I know people want to know the details of this deal, right? Kind of get into how you're making that kind of cash flow and stuff. So let's kind of go through that deal, Jared. Let's go through, the purchase price, how much the rehab was, just kind of the numbers behind it.
Okay. Well, the purchase price was $60,000 on a 3 unit. before we purchased it, we obviously got an appraisal, a BPO, and that appraised at 175.
That's the
So
ARV.
rate, yes, ARV 175. So rate from the gate, it's a good deal.
Yeah, yeah. And how much were you putting in for rehab? So you did the construction loan, right? So what was the total loan with the price and the rehab into it to kind of show how that was versus the ARV BPO?
It was $90,000.
All in 90,000 for purchase and the rehab.
Yes,
Okay, got it.
That's a very nice spread. So you're after renovations and acquisition, you're under 100,000, and the appraisal's telling you that after repair value or ARV is in the 170 range, 175, 170.
correct.
Beautiful. So that deal is a slam dunk all day long, and you jumped on it. We got you the financing, and then talk us about the actual renovation experience and the numbers there. Did you stick to the budget? Did you go over?
Of course, I went over. Of course, I went over. And you live and you learn. You live and you learn. But I mean, I ran into, well, especially on the first floor, I ran into some water issues where I had to waterproof it. So I had to jackhammer up the concrete, and not only doing all this during pandemic, but you live and learn. But that was probably one of the major parts right there on the first floor and the fourth floor, because like I said, that was never. It looked like it was never touched. It, and there was actually two rooms up there, but I turned that into three rooms and a full bath up on the fourth floor. So yes, I definitely I went over budget on the fourth floor and on the first floor, but the second and third floor they went pretty smooth.
What uh what was the actual numbers of what you thought it was going to be versus what it actually finished?
I thought I was gonna come shy under 40, but I ended up coming about close to 15 over the 40.
Okay. Yeah, I would recommend, especially if you're able to get the financing for it for anybody who's in this situation, you always got to cushion your numbers because there's always surprises. So,
Mhm.
best case scenario, worst case scenario, and then throw a cushion because if you don't end up using it, well, then you can always, you know, pay it back quickly. Um, when you're tight, and then there's surprises. Now you got to go and figure out where to get the money from. If you got the money, then no big deal because you can be conservative and say, well, worst case scenario, if I'm over 15 grand, I'll just put that money myself if your finances are not going to be affected by it. But that's probably one of the bigger things that I see in most renovation projects, that people budget always with optimism and get get the money with optimism. And there's nothing wrong with being positive minded and taking action, but if you had that extra 15 grand funded, you don't got to spin your wheels looking for it.
Yeah, and I also had income coming in from the properties because units 2 and 3 didn't need as much work. So I started the units that didn't need a lot where I can get them occupied right away. So, and like I said, when you're breaking it down by the room, I had them in there pretty fast. So I was getting income as I was rehabbing the other units.
What
Yeah,
are
let's
the
let's
numbers
kind of
per room?
What was that?
Break down the numbers per floor per room so people get an idea of what we're looking at.
I break it down. I have more the smaller rooms and the bigger rooms. The smaller rooms are more, probably like your kid size rooms. There, I have them at 150 per week, and then I have the bigger rooms at 160 per week, which I am actually low when it comes to the market and rooming houses. I know other people who charge 175 and around 160 to 165 for the smaller rooms.
It kind of
I
breaks down,
have
Jared,
three.
right? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry about that. Go ahead. When you're doing these rooming houses, right? You're providing furniture, right?
Correct.
Okay, so kind of
That's
break
a,
down like what.
that's a, that's another expense. I furnish them. I put bed, two dressers, and I supply TVs
Okay.
with Wi-Fi. I pay all utilities. Wi-Fi, they can watch anything through the TV. That's the technology for you that changed out here. You know, you really all you need is Wi-Fi to watch TV.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people come with their Fire Sticks. I know a lot of people know what Fire Sticks are. They bring their Fire Sticks and they watch whatever they want. But yeah, I supply all the furniture. In the common area, I'll put a table down so they sit down and eat. The stove, the refrigerator, pots and pans. I supply everything. So pretty much they're just bringing their clothes or whatever else they have, and they're moving in.
Perfect. Perfect.
Now, the $3,700 cash flow is after you pay utilities,
Correct.
after you pay the financing. So that's what you're taking home on this property.
Correct.
Those are great numbers.
That's net. Yeah, that's
And
net
like,
after everything.
and not only do I help them, with the pots and pans and everything, whatever they need. A lot of times, if I have access or know someone who has a company who's hiring, I'll help them out with getting a job. I'll help them out with if they need food. I work with the local food bank that's about 3 minutes down the road from the property. I'll help them out with that. If they need it. Some of them do take my offer. Some of them are okay. So there's a lot more, and I supply them laundry. I have a laundry room where that brings in more income, and then the summertime, I supply them with air conditioning units, like you guys down there in the hot area where y'all have central air. Up here we're not hot all year round, so some people still throw the AC units in the window. So I supply the AC units. Now that's $12 extra weekly because my electric bill's gonna go through the roof. Everybody running their ACs as well as the laundry. That's $5 extra a week. They don't have to use it, but if they want to use it, it's $5 extra a week. They can use it as many times throughout the week. I have keypads on there, so anytime they hit that door, it goes to my phone. I know when they're entering the laundry room. So that adds more to the income. And hopefully, there's an opportunity of vending machines.
Oh, I like that. That's the next play. You're going to put vending machines on the property?
I'm looking into that as we speak.
Very nice. That makes a lot of sense. You're essentially running this like a college dorm, except that it's not for college people. It's for people getting back on their feet and 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 trying to get back into the community and grow from there.
Exactly. I also,
Now,
in the lease, I don't mind them having guests and people over. But like I said, the bottom line is we're going to respect everyone else around. So I allow up to two people as a guest, but no overnight stays. That's a break in a lease. Now, at my other property, I had a guy. One of his girlfriends is out of state. She came in for the holidays. Communication is key. As long as you let me know, I'm okay with it. So she stayed with him for the weekend. I was fine with that. But it's all about communicating with me.
Yeah,
right.
as far as like marketing, right? When you're looking for tenants for the rooming house, what's the difference between marketing for a rooming house compared to a traditional rental?
In the beginning, I used Craigslist, but after that, it was more word of mouth. These guys are talking, coming to me, telling me, yeah, I have a guy I work with. He needs a place. Or my buddy just got divorced. He needs a place. So it's lately, it's just been word of mouth. I have not put anything on the market probably in about 2 or 3 months.
Got it. And as far as like managing, right? I know some people who have rooming houses who will have a tenant there who probably gets a little lesser rent, a discount on rent, or maybe even rents for free, and they kind of handle managing the rest of the house, right? How are you doing it with that property?
Yes, I do have one of the guys who's in the efficiency. He is the manager. He if they need anything upstairs or if something's going on or they lose a key, they all have his number, and he's just a couple steps down. He'll come right up and help them.
And what arrangement do you have with him?
I took off some rent from his efficiency where he stays at. Right now, he's currently paying $800 a month, which that efficiency, being that everything's new in there, I could get a lot more for that. Mm-hmm. But by him, working with me, he also helps me with the rehab. He was one of the guys that helped me with the rehab. So I still continue to use him to give me a hand on things.
So as far as property management side of things, being that you have an on-site person, realistically, for making $3,700 take home, how difficult has the property management side of things, working for that money per month, been so far? Aside from renovations, we're talking just strictly managing the people and the property.
It's been a lot easier than I thought. It took me a while to get into this. I know people who've been doing this for over 10 years. And it took me to take tours. The one guy, he has about 7 rooming houses in Harrisburg. And I just couldn't believe it. It almost sounded like a party house to me, to be honest. So I asked him to walk me through all of his houses. And once he walked me through his houses, it just blew me away, with people in there, the kind of people he had. And I mean, I know people right now, to this day, when I see people and tell people, they just can't believe it. Right away, they think it's a headache, especially getting paid weekly. Well, technology helps you out with that. Because all of my tenants pay through the Cash App. I'm not going there collecting cash every Friday. That's not the type of investment that I want, I want the Cash App. Everyone pays through Cash App, and I make sure they have Cash App set up before they move in. That's one of the qualifications to move in, is to have Cash App set up.
Joe's asking, is this a city property? He was on a conference call. Joseph asking, where is this at in PA, in Pennsylvania?
It's in Stilton, PA. And it's really not in the city. I wouldn't call it the city, but it can be done. Now, I tell people, if you're planning on do that, make sure you speak to your local code officer. Make sure you speak to your neighbors. Let the neighbors know what you plan on doing, especially if they're homeowners. They have the first say in what goes on, especially on their street, on their block, especially as a homeowner, and explain to them what you're trying to do, because right away they're going to think, okay, you're not bringing this party mess to my area. So you got to explain to them what it is that you do and what kind of people, you're going to be housing there. So that's the first step.
I was gonna say that's a huge point, is that you have to pick the right neighborhood, right? Because there are parts of the city where Jared's at, still in Harrisburg, where you'll see more rooming houses, right? And it's almost common, where you'll see someone take a 5-bedroom single family, turn it into 7, 8 rooms, or take a duplex, turn it into 6, 8 rooms, right? But if the neighborhood and the neighbors aren't good with it, you're gonna have headaches, So, make sure the neighborhood is good with it.
Yes, because there's a lot of bad ones out there. And at one point, they was thinking about shutting them down, but they need them, because they said the homeless rate would go through the roof if they did that. But, like in a city, they have certain requirements in the city. You have to have interlocking fire alarms. There's a health permit. There's a permit per bed. So you definitely want to check with the code officer, and safety's first. Safety's first, because it definitely can come back and haunt you. Because there's been a lot of fires at rooming houses. Like the director of our local mission told me, when he goes out, he inspects the rooming houses because he's seen some very bad ones, and he don't want to put his people in, a bad situation, especially if they're trying to turn their life around or get back on their feet. It's kind of hard to do that in a bad situation.
Yeah, you almost become like Jared will say right now. When someone knows you have a good reputation for having a rooming house, you will get tenants referred to you, right? Like you said, they're looking for rooming houses in the area, right? So if you do a good job, you won't have an issue finding tenants because they're going to be handing them off to you because there are at Apple's there doing the same thing.
Let me ask you a question, Jared. If you were to have to evict somebody, have you already had that issue or have you looked into the process? Is it any different than a regular eviction?
I had 2 evictions for non-payment. Now, not during the pandemic. This was well before the pandemic. And like I said, I'm not here to put people in the street. I help them out. I give them a chance. And when their money is due and I go to the house, the keys are on the table. Now, I can knock on wood. They're all not going to be like that, but I have not had any problems. The people that couldn't make it or wasn't ready to start their new life, to get back on their feet because they still wanted to, play the game or play the street game, whatever they was. I have not had any problems. They walked away. But yes, I believe the eviction process, just getting word from other people who have rooming houses, they had to take them through the regular eviction process through the courts.
In that city right now, what are you hearing as far as evictions and how long is it taking? Are they backed up? Are you guys having some of the issues that some other cities are having?
Yeah, I believe they just extended, the eviction process. So meaning no evictions right now. So it's pretty tough for not only the tenants and the landlords.
Were you seeing people having major issues during the pandemic with these type of properties that you own?
Me personally, no. My tenants, they stayed working. Now I know one guy, he had 2 jobs. He cut down to 1 job, but then I also slashed the the rent too during the pandemic, and I am now. Like, I have it down. Like I said, I could be up a lot higher, but meaning that we're in the pandemic. Like, I'm not here to hurt anyone, and I'm not here to take advantage of anyone. But yes, I have bills to pay, with operating the 3-unit. But I'm here to help. As long as they can work and communicate, I have not had any problems personally.
Now, Jared, are you doing this full time now? Or is this a side gig? What's your outlook on the future?
Well, I'm full time. I'm still currently a pipe fitter. So I'm a plumber pipe fitter by trade. I will continue to do that. I won't never leave that. That's what got me started. Like I said, you gotta have more than one source of income. I can always go back to work, but I'm leaning towards this is what I wanted to do. Now, rooming houses for the next couple years, I can't say that, but I'm gonna continue to grow and see how it goes.
You don't think that this is something you want to be doing for 10 years? You want to move to different type of properties, or you're kind of experimenting to see for how long you'll be managing these type of properties?
Well, I'm looking to scale a little bit more. Like I said, with you guys' platform, you can do a lot now. You can do a lot without being the traditional landlord. I'm learning the note game. I'm learning the seller finance game, and that's where I'm gonna probably start to move forward to, and start doing some seller finance. Just being the bank. That's the greatest thing that I think you can be. I mean, the bank's been surviving all these years doing it. Why can't we do it?
Amen.
Exactly. Be the bank. Definitely.
So
Yeah,
I'm
Jared.
just building my education every day.
I got Jared, man. He's still a little scared, but I'm trying to make him start making some of these seller financing offers to these sellers. So we'll see how he goes.
You gotta crawl before you walk, and Jory, sometimes, and you too, y'all been doing it for so long, and it becomes natural to you. So, but like I said, I'm thankful to be able to call you guys and ask you guys questions. And like I said, you didn't come to me. I reached out to you. So when I give advice to other people, I tell them nowadays there's no excuses. Because my parents didn't grow up with the technology to be able to do what we're doing right now. Everybody's walking around with a cell phone, but at the same time, as technology changed, distractions change too. There's more distractions out here that is taking people's attention away.
Yeah.
So, but everybody, I think it's a level playing field now.
100%.
You just gotta go after what you want, and the information is out there.
Yeah, that's so key. You said that, before we came on, me and Kevin were talking about that thing right now where you see this Wall Street bets. I don't know if you guys saw that, but how they're taking GameStop up to like $400 in the stock market, right? That's just a bunch of people at home with a phone on Reddit and Robinhood, right? So like you literally can go out there and make money with your phone however you want. It's just, are you can make money with it or be distracted on social media all day scrolling down. That is so true that you said that, Jared. There are no excuses. There's information out there for free all over the place, right? Jared came to me. He approached me twice. He didn't stop at the first time when I said, I don't know who this is. He came back again.
Yeah, and every time I see y'all, it makes me step up. Every time I see you doing, I tell myself, I got to step it up. But and that's why I tell people, you are who you surround yourself around. Bottom line, if you surround yourself around people that's doing less than what you're doing, then you think you're doing great. So I tell myself I'm so far behind, but then I got other people say, "Oh man, you're doing great." No, I'm not. If you see who I'm watching, I'm not even close. So you just, like I said, it's not an overnight thing. It takes time. It takes time and education. One of my friends told me, well, I'm going to just buy me a 4-unit apartment building, but knows nothing about real estate. I said, well, you need to study and read something first. No, I'll do it. I'll be all right. And, some people just going to have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, I was having this conversation yesterday as well, where there's a beauty to action takers, and they usually end up getting things done. But there's also a beauty to educated action takers, because they get things done and they avoid issues. And like you said, at this point, there's no excuse. There's plenty of platforms that are sharing, and being transparent, and it just gives you a little bit more insight when you're making your moves to save not just time but money as well.
Definitely, definitely. Well, hey, this is a great story, man. I wanted to share this story because, that one house, you took it many different ways and created some great cash flow from it. And the big thing with us is we're always trying to help somebody out, right? Like you're helping people out at the same time. Like people are being helped out, people's lives are being changes, and we're still be able to make money, provide for our family. And that, I mean, that's what social capitalism is all about, right? You can be capitalist, you can be, but you find a need and you feel that need, and we all win at the end. So great story, Jared. Happy you could come on, man. We appreciate you. Keep going out there doing it.
Congratulations, brother. Congratulations, and at the end of the day, we'll be bringing you on, periodically for the next move and watching your growth and supporting you. So, as always, thank you for sharing. Thank you for coming on board. And if people need to reach out to you to speak a little bit more on this, you're in the Facebook group with Shut Up and Invest on Facebook. How else can they reach out to you, Jared?
I'm on Instagram, nice_investor.
Nice. All right, my friend. Appreciate your time. As always, guys,
All
shut up
right.
and invest.
All right.
Shut up,
Appreciate you for
invest.
having me, man.